Make no mistake, the youth are a sought-after group in this country. Everyone from big corporates to political parties are being forced to relook at marketing strategies to keep up with the country's techno-savvy youngsters.
The country is a young one, so South Africa's population is young. By our definition of youth, which is 23 and younger, 52% of South Africa is of that age. So we're a young country. And increasingly, our youth population has significant spending power.
As head of the youth market research company that produces the annual Generation Next brand survey, it's Jason Levin's business to know what young people think is cool.
Certain of the categories in the studies remain fairly static. The preference for banks, BMW doing fantastically, always in motor. In other categories of the coolest brands polled, there's big changes. Things like sweets change fairly dramatically from year to year. TV program preferences fairly dramatically. But I'd say the general trend in consumer behavior in youth in South Africa is that, like all over the world, youth are becoming much more sussed about brands, much more sussed about products purchasing, and very quickly able to explore the purchases that they're about to make on high-ticket items.
So South Africans are not much different to other young people across the globe, growing up in an environment vastly different from that of previous generations. Ours is a technologically advanced one that has led to what academics call the eye-brain phenomenon, the evolution of the way young people gather, assimilate and communicate information.
You know, social media it's the most amazing research tool ever invented because the responses are instant
and direct, says 27-year-old Dineo Renaka.
Hold on, I have a right. I have a huge right.
The opinionated radio and TV presenter has many followers across social networks, 40,000 on Twitter alone.
Twitter it occupies your mind. Once you're in there, you literally live there almost every minute of the day. There's updates coming from left, right and center. Twitter will sustain itself. There'll always be people on Twitter to sustain it, and there'll always be a reason for corporate, different brands and so forth, and brands and products to advertise on Twitter and to communicate with their target audience on Twitter.
Experts say companies and not the youth are more likely to become a lost generation if they fail to stay cool and connected to what young people want. Yolande Begbie, eNews, Johannesburg.
Well, the Mail and Guardian's deputy online editor Varashni Pillay is here for more on that story. Varashni, good morning. Welcome to Morning News today.
Good morning.
Today's youth is a different youth. They're techno-savvy, they're on social networks and you know, forever using social networks as a medium to communicate. I mean, we've seen presidents being dethroned,
Indeed.
We've seen changes and revolutions in the Middle East as a result of this, even on Africa. How much of an impact has it had on society and people, social networks?
Well, you know, it's a mixed bag, really. There's been a lot of buzz around social media, and understandably so. There's been so much happening internationally around these sort of platforms. In South Africa, it's a little bit less of an impact, or penetration rather. What we see in South Africa is because of our low internet availability rates, we don't have as many people on social networks as you would imagine. So for instance, we've got quite a lot of people on Facebook. We're in, I think, the top 20 countries on Facebook. We have 3.8 million South Africans. Most of those are young people. About 90% are, you know, above the age of sort of 18, and, you know, young people kind of, you know, changing the country. On Twitter, which is causing a lot of buzz, as we just heard in the last insert, there's only about 1 million South Africans. So we've got to look at social media in context of other things that are happening. And the other things that are happening are also mobile use. And I think that's got a far larger penetration among South African youth, especially in areas that have low connectivity, you know, low income areas where people aren't able to have constant internet access, smartphones, laptops, but they have WAP-enabled phones or other kinds of phones that can allow them to access the internet and other kinds of programs. I mean, things like Mixed have been wildly successful for that reason. It creates another sort of platform for people to engage with online content.
Let's take a look at the political sphere. We've just recently had elections, and this was a different election. It was a very interesting election. And I guess it's also not necessarily the first time, but the first time that in such a big way, social networking has played a role in trying to galvanize people, getting them ready so that they can go out there and vote. Messages being sent out, people sending out struggle messages, others saying being in the opposition and so on and so forth. Is this a new era of politicking in South Africa?
Well, I think definitely so. I think it's definitely changing the way political parties are campaigning. It started in the 2009 elections, actually, where you saw parties like the DA launch a very comprehensive, very up-to-date and modern social media policy for their party. They had all kinds of things going. The ANC had, interventions here and there, but nothing holistic. In these elections, the DA kind of stayed with where they were at. They didn't really take it any further, this kind of social media engagement, but they did good things like, Twitter, town hall meetings and things like that. The ANC leaders kind of realized that, that their electorate are in a different space. So I saw on the ANC Youth League website, for instance, that they are now sending SMSs to their members, that you can sign up, or anyone can sign up for SMS alerts, and in their opinions, to avoid the misinformation that the media spreads. They want to be able to reach their leaders, their members, and tell them information directly. And they're using a very sensible tool to reach their electorate. Like, I wouldn't recommend Twitter for the ANC Youth League necessarily. They want to have a much broader base, much broader, amount of young South Africans to reach.
On a scale and perhaps on a gauging of social networks, which one would you say is the most popular in South Africa, and which one are people more familiar with you and using more often?
Definitely Facebook. I mean, the numbers show us that 3.8 million South Africans on Facebook. It really is the network of choice. People don't even think of it as social networking. It's just become part of life. Yes. So you'll find that a lot of, in fact, ANC leaders are using Facebook already, but they don't think of it as an official campaigning policy. They're just using it for engagement. I mean, Floyd Shivambu's Facebook profile is so active. Lots of discussions happening around the nationalization of mines, all kinds of things. These aren't things that some spokesperson has sat down and planned. It's just happened organically. Facebook happens quite organically for South Africans, and increasingly you're seeing older South Africans joining it. But it's really the tool of choice for young South Africans to communicate with each other and share links.
Hopefully they'll be using it more. Always a pleasure. I hope you enjoy your Youth Day. And
I hope so too.
I guess it's going to be quite a busy day for you.
Oh, indeed. Youth League, all of that.
No, enjoy. Thanks. That is the Mail and Guardian's Deputy Online Editor, Varashni Pillay.